Até onde vai a liberdade?
And they started to talk about individual choice to do anything, and for example, to use drugs and to change your natural sex and etc.
As regras definidas pelo dito mundo livre têm de ser impostas a todos os países e culturas?
And of course, United Nations not reflects all complexity and all diversity of different approach and different types of legal rights from different corners.
E as Big Techs, antissensoras e autoritárias, agora decidiram mudar de lado?
So we see the rise of new power inside of United States, and they would like just to be inside of establishment. They would like to be protected by military and by political orders, by the presidents, not matter, Republicans, Democrats or any other person.
Nesse novo episódio da nossa série de entrevistas a alguns dos mais proeminentes analistas e agentes políticos, lá da terra da balalaica da matriótica do outro lado do globo, o país cujo nome não pode ser dito, entrevistamos Leonid Savin, autor do livro Ordo Pluriversalis, para discutir as mudanças na ordem política internacional, o papel das empresas de tecnologia, da cultura, da religião e muito mais.
Bem, amigos do Quinto Elemento, estamos de volta aqui em Moscou, já entrevistamos a última vez, mais uma vez, com o professor Leonid Savin. Da última vez nós discutimos um pouco sobre os conceitos de multipolaridade, também tem um livro no Brasil sobre isso, e agora a gente vai conversar sobre um novo livro que ele está lançando, uma nova visão também de geopolítica, que tem a ver com as guerras tecnológicas e como são usadas como armas, e as guerras híbridas, e como essa pletora de ações acabaram se transformando e basicamente transformando tudo como arma num conceito de geoeconomia e geopolítica, que está diretamente ligado a tudo aquilo que você assiste no Quinto Elemento. Professor Leonid Savin, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
It's always an honor to speak with you. Last time was, I think it was a year and a half ago, right?
Yes.
More or less. A lot of things happened from this time to now. And I'm really interested because I know that you have just wrote a book about a kind of hybrid wars or technology wars, with also a new concept, discussing a new concept, not a new concept, but clarifying the concept of this gray area, how the governments using some period of peace also to implement their hegemony, and how institutions are using like NATO to be an arm of this hegemony. Could you clarify at the beginning the importance of this concept of gray zone?
Yes. First of all, there was an idea because after special military operation and sometime before even, we heard this term about like hybrid warfare, gray zone, and many people not understand real meaning, what is mean, and use it from many contexts. So I would like to study these topics and to organize deep analysis of these both concepts and how it's used in military sector and how it's used in politics and international relations. And of course, we need to keep in mind that both terms, hybrid warfare and gray zone, was born inside of American military. It was Marines and Special Operation Forces. And after so this concept proposed to use these models and of different kind of operations, military, civil military, mixed, and how to use military power during the peacetime, how to use military power during after the war, how to use military power and special operation forces and different complex conflicts in different areas, and not only in the United States, because for last about 2 centuries, military forces of United States participate in external conflict and not kind of official war, because they need Congress vote for this procedure, etc. And we see that most of operation in Iraq, in Afghanistan, was under another type of official umbrella. So they proposed a new approach to this very contemporary operations, how to overthrow governments, how to organize coup d'etat in different countries, how to provide different support to friendly governments, and of course they use it in international context, at least for last 5 years, and in kind of blackmail label, and to blame China, to blame Iran, to blame North Korea, and to blame Russia. That, for example, Russia to use hybrid operations against neighbor countries, against Baltic states, against European Union, even against United States in different forms, in cyberspace, in trade, etc. And the gray zone is the same. They use this term to blame mostly China, for example, for operation of Chinese marines in South China Sea, in area of Pacific, but of course against Russia also, in Mediterranean and Baltic Sea and area of Ukraine, mostly during special military operations.
I see. On top of that, for example, what's happening now that Trump is trying to fight against this deep state, probably fighting against these arms that are in different ways that express this, probably this gray area. Example, more specifically, like USAID. Trump said, look, USAID is a kind of arm of globalists, a kind of alliance made through CAA and globalists and these corporations, exactly to use the arms as a way to deploy a kind of narrative to blame or create ideology around the world. We saw that that's very interesting because it's known that since in the CIA, the first idea of CIA, the beginnings of 47, 48, was to launch, example, investments in the create radio in Europe. So they create the Europe Free radio station, and just now Trump said, "I'm not sending money for this radio station because this radio anymore because this is a kind of arm to deploy narratives and ideology." But very interesting this at the same time, even in Brazil, USAID send a lot of money for different entities like radios, NGOs, press companies, media. So we received, and Trump showed this very recently, showed that, there's a lot of money to do this. Even for Transparency International, that's an NGO that is sponsored by Soros and Open Society, with the idea to fight against corruption, but at the end of the day, is just to change regulation, implement a new kind of regulation to hunt people that they don't like, to hunt adversaries, oppositors in Brazil. But he's fighting against this in a certain way. It looks like that he's fighting this in a certain way. So my question to explore a little bit is, do you think that now today Trump understand that this is a kind of entity that could be associated with this concept of institutions that were created exactly to spread this narrative that some groups or countries should be blamed by what's going on? He really is fighting, he really wants to change this, or he just breaking this because these entities are connected with the CIA and globalist, and now he has a different pact with the Silicon Valley and the technocrats to develop also a new and completely new infrastructure, but it's also a kind of deep state.
It's interesting that during the first term, Trump promised fight against the swamp, but he not succeed. And then Democrats, when came to power, started a campaign against him. And so in some words we see that Trump to become more wise to fight even this one, but really there is few layers of this process. First of all, because he addressed it to the people last time, not to Republicans mostly, but to the people of America. And you say it based on taxpayers' funds. So he interested to represent that you say it is a kind of corruption system and money of taxpayers not used well, and better to reorganize these systems, to close and maybe to do something else. And I think most of American citizens agree with Trump for this initiative. Only, of course, some employers of USAID against it because they got money for this work. But beside USAID, there is many foundations, and for example, Democracy Endowment Foundation, many other groups of American interest over the globe, and they still exist. They still use influence, they still use lobby, they still use a lot of money from different companies, and the same companies that paid to Trump campaign, for example. There is normal in United States that different groups pay for both candidates, for Democrats and for Republicans, just to be sure that they will secure our business interest. Most of military-industrial complex also paid for Trump, and they still paid for many American think tanks, like Rand Corporation and many others. And they are also very active in foreign policy. Maybe not directly like you said, but we're still very influential in Europe countries and Asian countries, in Africa and Latin America. And for example, there is Council of Foreign Relations, and there is kind of department in European Union of Council of Foreign Relations. They still exist, they are still very active, and they have a very pro-liberal, pro-globalist agenda, and Trump to do nothing with them. So there is, first of all, kind of populist rhetorics. Second, Trump would like to be more rational and to address to American citizens about reorganization this process and fight against corruption. But third, very important, that the new sponsor of Trump comes from Silicon Valley. And it's also a very powerful instrument of influence in many different spheres, in banking, in finance, and social nets, in communications. And we see that Google, Amazon, and many other companies, they supported Democrats before, now they supported Trump. And by nature, they're libertarians, not conservative. They use kind of self-representation like technocrats, but in reality they just would like to save our own business, and they would like to spread our own business over the globe in other countries. It's because we see now conflict between European Union and United States about the regulation of cyber technologies, conflict between Australia, another partner of United States, with United States about the same regulation of social nets and advertising and electronic media, etc. So we see the rise of new power inside of United States, and they would like just to be inside of establishment. They would like to be protected by military and by political orders by the presidents, not matter Republicans, Democrats, or any other persons.
In this regard, very interesting, you mentioned the pact between Trump and Silicon Valley, because it's clear that since the last, I think, at least 20 years, slowly but surely, they, not Americans only, but the globalists, weaponize everything. Everything becomes a weapon. Food, energy, media, social network, even the Supreme Courts of the countries become armed to implement technology, ideology and ideas as well. On this regard, how do you see the technology that has been implemented by Silicon Valley in banks and also satellites and social networks, mainly for these 7 magnificent companies, ships, as a weapon to implement hegemony around the world in this gray zone, because of the war and in peace at that time? How do you see technology and the role of technology as a possible weapon in the political weapon, or a geopolitical advantage or disadvantage for a country, depends on how management in this scenario?
Yes, technology is very important in geopolitics. Of course, many not think and not talk about it, mostly about some school of political relations and some about politicians, about charisma of the leaders, about influence of religions. But technologies from beginning of human history was very important. It was used like weapon. And first scientific research mostly work for the weapons, then for the peace industry. And many gadgets we use now, first of all, use it for the military sector in the United States and other countries. And for example, we can to remind on the space, how Soviet Union active used space for to discovering different planets and to use our own system. But it's not only just for work in space, it's also to use like a weapon to demonstrate that United States that yes, we can do it too, not only you, like after bombardment of nuclear weapon of Japanese city of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So now we see just another level of this race between different countries, mostly between China and United States, but also Russia, European Union, India, and also middle and small countries like Saudi Arabia, Arabic Emirates, and many other try to use new achievement in science and technologies just to gain political and geopolitical power, and to use new routes, to use new communication technologies for keep dominance in our sphere. And United States, we see and look on the sphere very strict. And for example, in February, one of first orders of the Trump was to sign a new project, Stargate, about new consortium of artificial intelligence. So they look to achieve real dominance in this sphere. It's written in the documents, like before they introduced space forces during the first term, and many other similar aspects, like ice-breaking fleet, but still it's not used in the United States. But he tried to do it, and he understands well how technology works, because he has a business mind, and he tried to use it in politics and international relations. So also idea of tariffs against partner countries, against European Union, Japan, Korea, and many other, and to use only American technologies, and to use and to propose and to disappear American technologies over the globe. It's kind of another way of globalization. Before liberal globalists to use it, and non-state institutions inside of United Nations, like World Health Organization, IMF, and many others. But Trump just do the same, but from the point of view of sovereign American interest.
It's interesting because if you look carefully, the Trump government started just 3 months ago. We are in March, yes. End of March. So Trump, the government started just 3 months ago, and starts very strong, very bold in doing a lot of reforms, right? And a lot of noise as well, say, challenging the economic order, challenging the diplomacy order. So they're really trying to make a new or build up a new world. But at the same time, they are very clear that this tech-driven ideological shift is made by, in a certain way, Silicon Valley. And in this soup, let's say, that they have in the Silicon Valley, we have some guys that are really almost from Austrian School of Economic. Like Peter Thiel is someone that's important not only for business, but also intellectually point of view, political point of view. He provide some real philosophical ideas, political ideas to Trump and his team. But sometimes in the backstage, but it's clear that he's acting. For example, he defends this kind of newer dark enlightenment, the idea that states must be like corporations and the individuals like clients, and the state should be governed in a kind of a new cameralism. So the president should be like a CEO of the company, and the citizens has no rights, but they have the right to live a free exit. If you don't want it to be here, you live to go. You're free to go. That's interesting a point of view because they are proposing a new order, but at the same time, if you look carefully, is the same evil seed of the liberalism, wokeism that said, let's do it with a kind of a total radical anarch-capitalism. So don't you think that some technology movement in a certain way have the same risk of end of the day, just took a different route and present the same evil ideology in a couple of years, not economically speaking, not politically speaking, but spiritual speaking. Saying, look, again, we are facing the possibility of transhumanism, we're facing the possibility of singularity, and that change the idea what is the human being in the Christian perspective point of view.
Yes, I am agree that it's the very dangerous situation that the same person now came to establishment, came to power, and work just under another type of flag. I think they just would like to sit on this place next 4 years during the term of Trump presidency. Then, very possible that Vance will come next president, and he is the same-minded like Silicon Valley because he experienced it in this area. And if we read very old document, Cyber Manifest of Donna Haraway, we'll see that for now leaders of Silicon Valley going in this way proposed by Donna Haraway. And of course, there is kind of rhetorics about traditional values, about Christianity, but if we look on real statistic, United States, we will see that there is decline of traditional for United States beliefs, like Catholicism and Protestantism, for example. There is interesting nuances that more Orthodox Christians become inside of United States, because probably Catholics and Protestants disappointed because of kind of game with LGBT lobby, etc., and they turned to Orthodox Christianity. This is very interesting, but it is on the kind of ground mass level, not inside of establishment, not inside of big business, and not inside of Silicon Valley business. People this with another type of thinking, and I think they will do the same like before. Maybe not so active, and just to sit next 4 years and to do more into context of Trump policy.
And that way, of course, for Christians, because in Brazil at least, we are feeling that the Christianism is really begun to be hunted, and there are a lot of persecution against the free of speech, mainly for Christians, and also our way of life, And there is a clear prejudice, for example, members of the Brazilian Supreme Court, when Christians try to go to the political side and try to implement or show their way of life and the beliefs. They want to keep us in just, keep these ideas only on your home and do not bring this to the society. So keep this with you and will be tolerated. There's one sentence that shocked me a lot, that was a year ago, from the president of the Brazilian Supreme Court. He said, there is a devil Christianity in Brazil. I said, what do you mean? So what he's trying to say that this Christianity that's really don't want to stay only in the personal level of belief. They want to really implement this in the political side, help to create an order in the society. These guys are creating noisy and should be sent back home. That was impressive. But in a certain way, what concerns me, and I'd like to explore your vision about it, is that looks like that Trump and the technology guys from Silicon Valley are really fighting for freedom of speech and for a new, not a new, but keep tradition alive and respect that. Even Rubio in the last, I think it was 2 weeks ago, he was with the Christ in his head, and he was very comfortable to do that, and that was strange because that was a shock for the U.S. media and also in Brazilian media. Say, wow, he's doing this like it was a really crime. But at the same time, when they start to implement some tools in the technology side, like CBDCs, that Europeans really keen to do it, and it's very strange because Brazil, that is behind in everything around the world, in this subject, we are almost done to launch CBDCs, the central bank digital currencies. And also there's a lot of controls from the tax authorities, also the banks. They're increasing controls and converge for this kind of technology to control financial system. Looks like to me there's a kind of a new combination from the Silicon Valley technology guys with this old liberalism, this old wokeism that's not dead yet, to make a new ways of control that could be the new wave of really control and first, in a certain way, hunt Christians and hunt freedom of speech. Because I can say, look, you are now committing some hate speech, so I will block your accounts. And this will be directly made by CBDCs around the world. So how you see that? How you see this technology from these anarcho-liberals or super liberals or globalists, or they pretend not to be globalists, but technocrats, could be used by a new generation of liberalisms and wokeisms to hunt and persecute Christians around the world.
Of course, it's kind of anti-utopia that we read in books of Orwell. But even before Orwell, there was a very good Russian writer, Zamyatin, and in his novel We Are, he presented the same society, very technocratic, very controlled people inside, and they do use everyday agenda proposed by elders and etc. But it's finished by revolution and collapse of the systems in general. So, of course, processes in countries of Latin America also remind what happens in European Union. And the problem is not just from yesterday and today. It's started centuries ago, during era of enlightenment, during the secularization process, and where was idea of individual freedom that of course not exist, and they destroyed traditional society, and they started to talk about individual choice to do anything, and for example, to use drugs and to change your natural sex and etc. But actually, human born inside of society. He from the start he is social, and society have very deep roots with different traditions. Christian, for example, followers of Tao or teaching of Buddha in South Asian countries, or Muslim country, for example, followers of teaching of Prophet Muhammad. So from beginning, human cannot be, man or woman cannot be a kind of separated individual. He very deep socialized. So new idea of liberal globalist establishment just to use humans like mechanism, like not living entities. And I think it's a very dangerous trend. And of course, we are who followers of traditional values should to fight against such kind of trends. And there is a very good term in the West countries like techno-feudalism. And I think it's very useful to describe this situation, what happened in technologically developed countries like United States, some European countries. And there is danger that this techno-feudalism will be spread over other states and peoples.
Okay, I have two questions in one. Consider this, you have mentioned about all this changing. Do you think that Fukuyama idea of the end of history is dead or still alive in Europe, and this idea will only be real dead when the European Union it's over, because Brussels concentrate this idea or still defend? What do you think, that Fukuyama idea is dead or will be dead only if European Union change their mind or disappear in a certain way? And the second is, in the Russian perspective here, if it's possible to draw what's the best world order possible to fight, or at least to rebalance these movements that comes from the wokeism and globalism and liberalism hiding in technology. What should be this ideal world order that be seen from Russian perspective is something that's good for the world?
I think this idea is dead, and Fukuyama also agreed that he was wrong when some processes changed. He probably was very optimistic, maybe so young during this time of writing this book. And we see now that, of course, the not possible to do this kind of projection of the future like proposed Francis Fukuyama or any other authors. And I think Samuel Huntington was more wise in this way, and he told about a very possible conflict between different civilizations. And what we see now, the rise of different blocks and different culture and civilizations, and we see real conquest between them. In some way, it's peaceful conquest, like cooperation between Russia and China, India and Russia, India and China. In some sense, there is a real possibility of war, like China and the United States. And of course, from this point of view, we should to remind that situation is very different than times of Francis Fukuyama and his The End of History and Last Man. There is no anymore unipolar world order. We see rise in multipolarity, and we should to see and react from this perspective, from perspective of multipolarity. Not means how many poles, we mean 3, 4, 5, 10, but of course there is no any unipolar global system with the leadership of United States. And of course, we should think from the point of decolonization process, because before there was kind of type of white Western supremacy and dominance on all the globe. And United States see Latin America like our backyard. European Union see some countries like Eastern Europe and Caucasian, Asian regions like Africa, like Russia, like kind of minor partners. Now it not happens. And we see real rise of sovereignty and reorganization of sovereignty in different regions. And for example, rise of alliance of Sahel states in Africa and new agreement between many Asian countries, between China and some small countries around, new agreements between Russia, Iran, North Korea, and I hope other countries will join our bloc too. And we see on example of BRICS Plus club that system is changing. And of course, they will try to use our monopoly to use for in banking and finance systems. And openly, Trump told that why BRICS is dangerous for United States, because BRICS try to develop new banking transaction systems that are very dangerous for dominance of American dollar. And so they tried just to use another type of strategy, like, for example, this negotiation in Saudi Arabia with Russia. I think it's just attempt of to reorganize our own strategy, and then they will try to use another type, more soft influence on Russia, and for our own benefit. So we need to be very smart and wise, and when talk with our so-called partners from the West, and to discuss on this very hot and important topics.
In this case, it's very interesting because when you mentioned as new agreements between, example, countries, like private agreements, in a certain way, one strategy of the neoliberalism and globalism in the past was create one global constitution that was hiding in idea that the rules based in order, right? But this order is just one way of thinking. That was a very clever idea, because I said, no, let's make a world based in rules based in order. Say that's great, but I will write the rules, I write the order. So it's based in the games in the way I like to be. And based on this idea, they capture Supreme Courts around the world. So it's clear that in a certain way, the legal system was captured by this globalists. We saw this in the elections in Romania. We saw this election now in South Korea. There's impeachment. The new one assumed, and there was impeachment. The Supreme Court said, no, the second one is not valid, but the first one is valid. So they're still struggling with this kind of stuff. We saw the same in Germany elections, when the globalists and leftism trying to use the Supreme Court to prohibit AfD to exist even as a party. We are seeing the same thing in Brazil right now, with the Supreme Court assuming a political role instead of a neutrality in terms of the constitution. So they are clearly selling a kind of ideology and choosing a kind of thinking. But in this new multipolarity world, means that in a certain way you have to have a rules based in multipolarity orders, multipolarity legal systems and legal agreements and perspectives. On top of that, do you think that we will face a new wave of legal ideas, legal systems that will rearrange these supranational institutions that were created based in one idea only, in one way of thinking, and one order or legal order, to a kind of fragmented or breakdown, splitted, different institutions and entities to create disagreements in a kind of multipolarity legal systems and agreements in a way that the old international order or rights doesn't exist anymore? Or do you think that will be like just like the theory of great powers, 3 or 4 main nations, the great powers that will write the rules and the others will just attach for these 2 or 3 legal systems or legal perspectives in the world?
About 10 years or maybe more, I wrote articles titled Lex Pluriversalis. It was exactly about this type of development, need of development, new global legal system, because many people, nations follows a very own agenda, and it's not possible to implement some kind of rules and proposed by the West. Actually, if we see a classical legal system from Byzantine Empire, from Rome, to use another examples from ancient empires, we see that now on the global scale we see dominance of Western non-continental system of the rights. And of course, United Nations not reflects all complexity and all diversity of different approach and different types of legal rights from different corners. And there is, for example, Sharia right in Muslim countries. Of course, there is kind of traditional, not written tradition, but used in the cards, and I think in many countries with traditional values. And I am a proponent of this kind of balance. Yes, it should be kind of one international system that understandable for everybody from different countries, but not to impose any limits on sovereignty, on the interaction of representative of different countries, but inside of some huge culture of civilization, there should be another model for domestic use, for example, and of course it may be and it need be interconnected to each other. And I think it's not difficult to organize this system. The problem is that for last 1 century there was dominance only one Western legal system.
Okay. There was one writer that just came out of my mind here now called Bruno Massas. He works with international. He's a Portuguese guy, but his works in the geopolitics and geoeconomy around the world. He used to work with for the Portuguese government as well. He wrote a very interesting book called The Century of Eurasia. Something not sure if the century or its time of Eurasia. And he starts his book one moment saying a very interesting thing, that this concept of European and Asia is an imaginary concept. And what he believes, that's part of Europe that's totally connected with one citizenship, one kind of identity that's more connected with Asia. And so this Eurasia is more than a geographic idea, but an identity idea as well. And but other authors believes that it's a matter of time that this European Union, formed by 27 states, that this structure is not sustainable anymore. So it's a matter of time that will be breakdown. So probably part of these states will join and continue to be indirectly colony of the U.S., but part of these states that more the European, the West European, or East European, they will connect with Eurasia and form a new economy, new arrangements. What's your perspective, or most likely perspective, what's going on with Europe? Because it's clear that Europe today has not only economic problem, but also ideological problem and perspective. And for me, this is very clear that's in the root of the conflicts, because some are clearly globalists, wokeists, and they defend this agenda, and the others are totally against it. The population is totally against this agenda. So it's impossible to find a harmony to create one big entity to run these two totally not even, I mean, there's no connected agenda between these countries that are so different in political perspective. But what's your most likely scenario to Europe today? What's going on there?
Yes, I agree that everything comes from imagination, from political imagination. Even term of Europe, it was daughter of a Phoenician king, and it's not actually territory of contemporary Europe. Actually, Asia is name of nymph, so it was coined to Mediterranean history. And during the Middle Ages, there was no term like Europe. It was Christian countries on the place of contemporary Europe. And of course, we see the attempt of change concept. Where it's Central Europe, where it's Eastern Europe. It's kind of narrative dominance. And of course, I am proponent of theory of Danilevsky, and he told that Europe is just very small peninsula of biggest Eurasia. And from point of view on how of perspective of Europe, of course, we should to remind of demographical factors, that we see that population is changed very quickly, changing, especially in a country like Germany, like United Kingdom, like France, and many newcomers from Asian and African countries come and to go to the power, and it's reality. Second, it's economy. Now we see that economy of Europe is destroyed, and honestly, I not understand how possible to release all agenda of last years proposed by European Commission. First about green economy, second about remilitarization of Europe, because there is no cheap energy, there is serious problems inside, and there will be clash of between different nation states inside of European Union. So in near future, I see the problems inside of European Union will rise. They will be more difficult to govern this system. Also, very important to mention that it's not real democracy in the European Union, because it's ruled by European Commission, but Euro-commissars not elected by peoples. And so we see that there will be more tensions inside of Europe, inside of legal system, inside of a different political party, etc. But also I see that there is a problem of populist parties, because most of all came from the same agenda like liberal globalists before. And they tried to use rhetorics about pro-people, pro-populations, pro-traditional values, but in fact they protect traditional liberalism, they protect traditional individual pseudo-values. So it will be also a problem. And newcomers from Middle East and African countries, I think, will catch. It will be a very powerful grip and real internal battles inside of European countries for power.
Okay, thank you. My last question to you, Professor, is a little bit trick. I know that it is. But how do you see, what message you think you should send to Brazil? How Brazil could be important, or how you see Brazil in this new scenario of technology, theory of great powers, wokeism against dying, globalism dying. How you see Brazil on this, and how Brazil, the importance of Brazil in this scenario?
I think, and I wish to Brazilian people to be more active in politics and in good sense for benefit of our own country, for strengthen sovereignty of our country, to strengthen potential of Brazil in technologies, because we remember that Brazil was a very powerful country in 20th centuries. Not many, but experts can to agree with this, that there was real many different factors, and in Navy, for example, and machine building in Brazil. The problem is influence during the 19th, I think, and during the time of this globalization process, when some Western companies came, take, and in the result there is nothing. So they should to rethink our policy and to be more focused on domestic policy, and of course more concentrated on regional problems, because for years Brazil was in like leader of global south. Now not. Why it happens? What Lula done not in right way, for example. During the last years, India now it's real leader of the global south, not Brazil. And I think that Brazil can to regain and this place, and of course Brazil, because of member of BRICS, more to cooperate with Russia, more cooperate to China, and of course support other countries who reject and real resist to influence of United States, like Venezuela, for example, because Brazil blocked entry of Venezuela to BRICS club before. And of course, we should to start more different projects, joint projects with Russia. I mean, not only business, but some kind of discussion clubs, cooperation between think tanks, between media. And I know that in Brazil there is some very influential liberal globalist media, but you and maybe with a kind of assistant of your partners from traditional countries should to organize real very good media that reflect real situations, not influence in destructive way, and to provide a good agenda for Brazilian people.
Thank you, Professor. In our side, it's very good to hear that, because I also believe that Brazil must assume the potential of its future, and the nation really create real sovereignty. And we have a plenty of resource, very good people, but unfortunately there is a lot of force against us that make Brazil still a kind of colony, neo-colony. And we are, in our program in Brazil, our team, Fifth Element, we are super pro-Brazil. We want to make Brazil a real country and take care of people and good ideas around. But it's not easy. I just comment to you, not easy, because the people that most attack us in media and everything is exactly the liberals. They are becoming crazy because they don't want they don't want us to show different perspectives about the world. They don't want us to show, example, when it comes here for Russia, people accuse us of everything you could imagine, since that we are communists to agent of disinformation, like a kind of mess, but it's a daily attack. But at the end, on speaking for us in our program, we are Christians. We really believe in Brazil, and we believe that to have a biggest mission that God provides us. And we are okay with this kind of attack. We face this with happiness, because that's exactly what God asks us to do, right? Say, don't be sad, just be courageous and take this as part of your mission. So we take this serious, but it was really good to hear this for you, because we really believe that Brazil could have a biggest role in the world. So thank you so much for this. Thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure to have this interview again, and hope you can make this again in 1 year to see what's going on again, and in a different and better scenario for all of us.
You're welcome, and thank you for opportunity to talk and to propose my ideas, and also for Brazilian people.
Thank you, professor. Bem, amigos do Quinto Elemento, essa foi mais uma entrevista com o nosso super professor Leonid Savin, mas acalme-se, porque tem outras vindo aí. Até a próxima.